Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Logistics with me, Jill Williams, your host. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And I want to thank all my subscribers and thank everybody for watching as we continue our exploration of the drayage business model. So, on today's show, I want to go over some of the terminology and especially address chassis. Chassis is a really big, important part of the drayage business because most containers, when they come in, they may not have wheels underneath them, or the port may not have enough chassis, and the driver may need to go get a chassis, or the customer that is bringing in the freight may need to arrange for that type of equipment in order for that container to be picked up. So there's some logistical pieces into that. So before I get started, I want to definitely ask you to like this video if it's benefiting from you, and subscribe, and also turn on your notification bell so you will be notified every time I release a video. All right, so let's get into this first part. So intermodal, that's a term you're going to hear a lot in the drayage community because it is a link. It's a linkage of the process of draying from point A to point B. So when you're in the drayage business, you're going to be pulling cargo from the port. And as you can see in this video, it's going to go from the ocean port. It may get on a rail, or and then go to a truck, or it may go from the ocean to the truck. So sometimes rail is in there, that's why they call it intermodal, because it's moving in different places. And so when you are looking at this this model, the key with the chassis is the cost, because chassis sometimes have to be rented. So just to kind of give you an overview. So we've got ocean, then we go to port, then we go to intermodal rail, then intermodal rail again possible, and then back to the motor carrier is how that usually works. So I want to address this one piece because I had this situation come up to me, and I want to set this up real quick. But I had this situation happen to a number of carriers I work with. And when I worked for an importer directly, we were importing from China. And we would bring in 20-foot equivalent units. And we would overweight them. In other words, we'd put so much weight in them that they would basically be overweight for the highway. Now, to bypass that, we would have to have the trucker get a 40-foot, a 40-foot chassis in order to carry that 20-foot trailer. Because with a 40-foot chassis, then they could have more weight because it would be kind of evened out and distributed based on that 40-foot. Okay, so this particular slide I want to set up for you is going to show you that. So let's take a look at that real quick. So what you're looking at here is CIE. They make chassis. They're out located in Virginia. I'm not promoting them. I just wanted to use them as an example. Now, what they have here and their chart is they're showing how their 2040 city combo, that it can hold 20-foot empty containers or one 40-foot loaded container. Then it shows the 40-foot gooseneck. It can hold 22 20-foot empties or one 40-foot loaded. And then same thing with their 43 drop frame. Same thing, it can hold 2 20s or 140. Now, what I was explaining in this previous scenario is they're explaining how it could be 2 20-foot empties. Well, you could also load one 20-foot empty on that chassis is how we would do it when we imported. And then that way it was an overweight 20-foot trailer, but it the weight could be dispersed with the chassis because it was a 40-foot chassis. So that's sometimes some of the things you may think about. And when you're talking to your shippers, or when your dispatcher's talking to your shippers, or when you're talking to an NVOCC carrier, these are some of the questions you're going to want to ask. And when you're looking at the weight, if they give you the weight of that 20-foot trailer, or excuse me, that 20-foot container, be mindful that you may need a 40-foot chassis to carry it. Because if you hit the road with a 20-foot trailer on a 20-foot chassis and it's overweight, then you could get an overweight ticket, because the chassis, you cannot change, you cannot slide their tandems. And I want to show you this in this image right here. So this image right here is showing how a container is getting loaded at the port. And a crane comes in, it'll position it on here. But if you look closely at these wheels, you can't slide those wheels. So they need to position, that's a 20-foot container that they're loading, and they're going to position that to where it fits properly on that chassis and it's locked down, and that way it doesn't move. So these are the things you're going to want to be mindful of when you're going into the ports. When you're picking up trailers, you're going to have to ask that question: do I need a 40-foot chassis for this if it's a 20-foot, or can I roll with a 20-foot chassis with this? And you want to prepare, hopefully, your dispatchers and the companies that you're working for are giving you enough time to understand what you need, because the ports, when you go in there, you want to be prepared to have that information. I just want to address this. One of the things that the Port Authority of Georgia addressed at their logistics summit was sometimes drivers come in and they want to pick up their trailers and their containers, and they can't, because as you saw here in this image, sometimes back here in the back, if you look back there, you'll see how these containers are stacked on top of each other at the port. And sometimes they're just offloaded from the ship. They're not put in any particular order. So the container you want may be at the bottom of the stack, which could cause you to wait all day. Now, Port Authority of Georgia addressed the fact that you can send a list to the containers that you want to pick up, and they'll have them staged for you, and that way it's an in and out transaction, and you don't have to wait. So these are just things that'll save you time. It'll cut back on the amount of wait time you have, and it'll reduce the amount of time you have to wait or come back the next day. Nobody wants to get down to the port and have to turn around for a wasted day. It's not good for the driver, and it's not good for the shipper. Everybody loses. So hopefully the dispatchers are working with you. But if you have this information up front, you can alert the dispatchers, because you have a knowledge about what needs to take place. And if you're new to the drayage business, these are some things that new drayage business owners, they're not aware of, and they go in there blind, and they wind up losing money on the front end, and they have to scramble on the back end trying to make up the difference. All right, so that's my video for today, and I hope this was helpful, and I hope you learned a little something about chassis and how to prepare yourself when you're going in there to pick up that freight. The next show, I'm going to be talking about the rail intermodal section of this, and give you some idea of the rail ports and how they work with the ocean ports. So I will see you on the next video. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. Bye.